Hi, and welcome to the ASEAN and APEC podcast. I'm your host and moderator, Andrew De La Cruz, and together with my colleagues, we will talk about the history of ASEAN and APEC and how these two international organizations work. So please enjoy the show. Post-World War II international affairs in Southeast Asia were heavily marked and shaped by nationalism, decolonization, intervention of great powers, and failed attempts of establishing a regional bloc cooperation. While the domestic strife characteristic of post-colonial states persisted and great power rivalry continued to plague the region, Southeast Asia's international relations during the 70s and 80s would be marked chiefly by a dynamic involving the competing forces of regional conflict that led to the creation of a regional cooperation. This marks the rise of ASEAN. ASEAN was formed to promote political and economic cooperation and regional stability across the region. Comprised of three pillars: political security community, economic community, and socio-cultural community, ASEAN commands far greater influence on Asia-Pacific trade, political, and security issues than its members could achieve individually. On the other hand, APEC, a regional trading bloc, was formed to encourage a growing and prosperous regional economy through trade and investment liberalization and facilitation. It also aims to improve institutional capacity to implement and take advantage of the benefits of trade and investment reform across the Asia-Pacific region. Member states' active participation in APEC activities and cooperation with ASEAN give great economic and political importance for their geostrategic development.
Now let's talk about ASEAN. ASEAN, or the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, is an intergovernmental organization for the countries in the Southeast Asia region. It was founded on August 8, 1967 with 5 regional member states including Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand. The foreign ministers of the 5 original member states are considered as the founding fathers of the ASEAN. They are Adam Malik of Indonesia, Narciso Ramos of Philippines, Tun Abdul Razak of Malaysia, Rajaratnam of Singapore, and Tanat Koman of Thailand. They signed a document in the Department of Foreign Affairs of Bangkok in Thailand that will entry into force the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. And it is said that the ASEAN is the most successful intergovernmental organization for developing countries today. The original members of ASEAN are Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, and Singapore. However, there are now 5 other member states from the region: Brunei Darussalam, which joined on January 8, 1984, Vietnam on July 28, 1995, Laos and Myanmar on July 23, 1997, and Cambodia on April 30, 1999. The ideology and goals of ASEAN is one vision, one identity, and one community. Promotion of regional cooperation and economic development are the aims and the purpose of the organization. Mutual assistance and collaborative work for their common interests like education, professional sphere, cultural and societal field, and of course regional peace and stability are also the reason why this organization is made.
The economic progress of ASEAN revolves around the establishment of the ASEAN Economic Community in 2015, which is a major milestone in the regional economic integration agenda in ASEAN. The ASEAN Economic Community offers opportunities in the form of a huge market of $2.6 trillion and over 622 million people. The ASEAN Economic Community Blueprint 2025 aims to create a dynamic, deeply integrated, and highly cohesive ASEAN economy that would support sustained high economic growth and resilience even in the face of global shocks and volatilities. It also aims to promote the principles of good governance, transparency, and responsive regulatory regimes through active engagement with the private sector, community-based organizations, and other stakeholders of ASEAN. Hence, the purpose of AEC Blueprint 2025 is to work towards a common position and enhance ASEAN's role and voice in the global economic fora. Before the pandemic, Southeast Asia had achieved a collective annual growth of about 5%, making it one of the world's best performing regions. It became an attractive investment destination with a relatively young population, driving demand and providing plenty of manufacturing labor, positioning themselves as a group of countries that care not only about their own fitness but also the fitness of others in the post-COVID-19 economic evolution will make ASEAN much stronger and more cohesive. Some scholars see that the Southeast Asian region is now becoming very weak because of its increasing influence of China among its member states. It is even asserted that the very problem of ASEAN's institutional weakening stems from its expansion of membership to include Cambodia and Laos PDR, which are both strongholds of China. Recent national political changes have also created surprising changes in East Asian alliances, whereby Malaysia, Thailand, and the Philippines are starting to accept alliances with the Chinese government in various aspects of governance. The unprecedented presence of China in the South China Sea is also a cause of the concern for the entire Southeast Asian region. However, ASEAN does not offer an assertive solution to protect the interests of its member states. Discussions concerning the South China Sea dispute are even constantly denied in the agenda of the ASEAN Regional Forum because of strong objections by China and other ASEAN member countries. The ASEAN has faced a lot of criticisms for its deafening silence on a number of human rights violations committed by its individual member states. Phalim Kain, the Deputy Director for Human Rights Watch in Asia, has asserted the failure of the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights to curtail the abuses of the Southeast Asian authorities on their own citizens. By upholding the principle of state sovereignty and the doctrine of non-interference, the ASEAN has failed to protect the citizens who were supposed to accept the collective concept of the ASEAN way.
Hi guys, now we're going to tackle about APEC. First, what is APEC? The APEC, are also known as the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, is a regional economic forum established in 1989 to capitalize on the Asia increasing Pacific's interdependence. It also aims to boost regional prosperity by fostering balanced, inclusive, sustainable, creative, and stable development, as well as accelerating regional economic integration. Since the APEC cooperative mechanism is primarily concerned with trade and economic problems, members interact with one another as economic bodies. The term economies is used to describe the APEC members. Now, who are the member states of the APEC? By the way, the APEC has 21 member states. There is Singapore, known as the Lion City or the Garden City, the latter for its many park and tree-lined streets, has also been called the Instant Asia because it offers the tourist an expeditious glimpse into the cultures brought to it by the immigrants from all parts of Asia. Next is Malaysia. Aside from a total landmass of over 300,000 square kilometers, Malaysia is known for its capital city of Kuala Lumpur, a powerhouse financial and business hub in Southeast Asia, as well as its beautiful beaches, secluded islands, elevated hill station, and UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Third is the Thailand. Thailand is located in Southern Asia. It is known for great eats, martial arts, beaches, and many temples. Thailand also has many islands that are well known to their numerous resorts for tourists. Next is the other member states of APEC. There is Vietnam, Australia, Canada, Russia, Japan, New Zealand, United States, the Philippines, Indonesia, Mexico, Peru, Chile, Papua New Guinea, Brunei Darussalam, Chinese Taipei, Hong Kong, China, Republic of Korea, and the People's Republic of China. Next is how APEC works, or what does APEC do? APEC ensures that goods, services, investment, and people can move freely across borders. Faster custom procedures at borders, more favorable business climate behind the border. and the alignment of regulation and standards across the area help to promote this exchange. APEC works to help all residents of the Asia participate in the growing economy. APEC efforts to synchronize regulatory frameworks, for example, an important step toward integrating the Asia-Pacific economy. With a single set of international norms across all economies, a commodity can be exported more easily. APEC is a multilateral cooperative economic and trade forum. Participation by member economies is based on open debate and respect for all participants' point of view. All economies have an equal say in APEC, and decisions are made by consensus. There are no binding commitments or treaty obligations. Commitments are made on a voluntary basis, and capacity building programs help members adopt APEC initiatives. The composition of APEC is based on both a top-down and bottom-up. For example, APEC projects provide digital skills training for rural communities and help indigenous women export their products abroad. Recognizing the impacts of climate change, APEC members also implement initiatives to increase energy efficiency and promote sustainable management of forest and marine resources. The forum adapts to allow members to deal with important new challenges to the region's economic well-being. This includes ensuring disaster resilience, planning for pandemic, and addressing terrorism.
Hello everyone! I'm going to tackle about the economic progress of APEC. In the first 6 months of 2020, the economic growth of APEC region lessens by 3.7% in the middle of COVID-19 pandemic, and I will be going to show to you their infographics that this came from APEC Regional Trends Analysis. According to APEC Policy Support Unit, household production dropped by 7.1% in the first half of the year, comparison to a 3% average increase in the first half of 2019. Investments dropped by 11.2% after a 1.1% increase in almost the same quarter the year before. In the first half of 2020, growth in the volume of merchandise exports dropped by 6.2%, while imports dropped by 7.2% compared to the stagnant process in the first half of 2019. When it comes to the growth in commercial services by the year 2020, commercial services imports dropped by 22.2% and commercial services exports dropped by 20.9%, unlike in the year of 2019. Moreover, they also have policy consideration for APEC economies. Moving forward to digitalization. Digitalization supports digital technologies' capacity to acquire data, identify changes, and optimize other strategic methods. Investing in greener technologies. Green technology is a form of technological advancements that is eco-friendly due to its manufacturing method or chain management. Green technology's mission is to save the atmosphere, restore existing environmental degradation, prevent pollution, and maintain the Earth's natural resources. Strengthening supply chains, logistic management, and trade relations. Logistics is a fundamental aspect of supply chain operations. It includes the preparation, execution, and distribution of products, resources, and data from place of manufacturing to source of consuming. It coordinates the complicated structure of roads and transports, loading and collecting, import and export processes, storage of goods, warehouse control, ordering, quality control, and customer care. It also has continuing fiscal and monetary support and advancing women's economic empowerment. Let's move forward to why APEC matters to Americans. Because APEC, or the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, is connected to their largest clients in the world and has played an essential part in fostering regional trade and investment liberalization. It also gains greater flexibility, communication between leaders, and the implementation of planned programs among its members.
Hi guys, are you guys still there? Now, we will talk about similarities of APEC and ASEAN. So, APEC and ASEAN are both members of intergovernmental organization. Both ASEAN and APEC seek a mutual aim to accelerate economic growth and social development among their members by sharing information about what they are doing to achieve this goal. And lastly, they both promote free trade agreement. Now, let's talk about differences of APEC and ASEAN. So in ASEAN, first, they promote cultural development. Next one is regional peace and security, since one of the aims of ASEAN is to maintain peace with other member states. They also promote active collaboration and mutual assistance on matters of common interest in the economic, social, cultural, technical, scientific, and administrative fields. And lastly, is to collaborate more effectively for the greater utilization of agriculture and other industries, the expansion of trade, including the study of problems of international commodity trade, the improvement of transportation and communication facilities, and raising the living standards of their people. Now, we move on to APEC. So they are encouraging economic and technical cooperation, enhancing human security, develop and promote multilateral trade agreements, since their main purpose is to reduce trade barriers in the region and promote a free flow of goods, services, and capital among APEC economies. And lastly, they support regional and economic expansion.
So now that we know the similarities and differences of both APEC and ASEAN, I think we should discuss about now is the relationship and its common goals. So this both intergovernmental organization actually aims to facilitate and accelerate the growth of the economy among their member states to develop different sectors and secure trade and investment within parts of Asia. Now, its relationship between one another is that APEC and ASEAN will send their representatives, which will conduct a meeting to share what's the best option of practices that they can execute to their members, as well as pitch new methodologies to increase its development to building projects that is sufficient to meet the needs of those developing countries in their economy. So these two representatives are the project management unit on behalf of APEC and the Secretariat Strategic and Planning Division on Project Management that is on behalf of ASEAN. This both representative will take action and combine their influence and power to make a solution that is fit for the problem between in regards to their members. Other than that, the APEC and ASEAN also combines their interest to explore and facilitate such small sectors and problems like in the sector of small and medium enterprises, supply chain connectivity, and standards and conformance. This is connected to trade and investment, which APEX specializes, as well as health and communicable diseases, disaster management, and humanitarian assistance that ASEAN specialize. On behalf of that, Ambassador Te quoted that both APEC and ASEAN share a common goal, which is to accelerate economic and social development in their members by exchanging information on what we do to reach this goal. We hope to identify areas where collaboration between APEC and ASEAN can generate genuine and practical benefits. So, yung pinoportray ni Ambassador Tay dito is that those two IGOs actually combine their power and influence to their members to share their discoveries and promote social and economic growth so that they can possibly reach to create practical and convenient ways to have solution to different problems that most of the developing countries in Asia is dealing with most of the time. With this, the importance of cooperation is that countries cannot tackle threats like economic recession, health pandemics, and climate change alone. That's why APEC and ASEAN has a essential role to play in developing policies and programs that can help to restore growth and combat diseases and environmental damage.
And there you have it, That's all for now in our ASEAN and APEC podcast. Thank you for listening.